Hey, what's up? How's everybody doing? Let me make sure the sound is set up properly. Or maybe it's too late. Well, if you're getting the computer sound, tough titty. All right, here we go. Chapter 20. What is chapter 20? Oh, we're way up here. Sorry, I got turned around. I started adding the numbers to them, so I need to get those right. This is 20. Thanks for bearing with me. Here we go. Chapter 20. Ayana. Time slowed. Ayana imagined herself in a cloudy kingdom, kneeling before the goddess in supplication. My lady, please direct me to those who have wronged your children. She felt the goddess take her hands in hers. Her hammer pulsed with power at her side. She felt the words rather than hearing them beyond the gate. As her trance ended, she swung the hammer hard against the control panel. Sparks erupted from it, wires and glass scattering as she yanked the weapon back into the air. She readied the hammer for another strike. The doors began to rise. That's what's up. Let me hit my fucking weed, yeah. Hey, you should subscribe to my stream. You should listen to my podcast, Everything is Awesome, in which I do all kinds of cool art and interview style stuff. And then sometimes I read chapters from my book or other stuff. And yeah, you can hear all that over at Everything is Awesome. And if you have something you want to share, I could read it here at some point during these things. And critique it or just praise parts of it, send that to everythingisawesomepodcast@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at EIA Podcast. All right, chapter 21, Sophris. Sophris pursued the assassin down a series of twisting corridors, stopping only to subdue each goon Creel had left to slow his pursuit. Oh, that's their pursuit. Hold on. Stopping only to subdue each goon Creel had left to slow their pursuit. It was their pursuit now. A team of police officers had joined him, intent on apprehending the architect of devastation. Celine had merely to bow his head, describe his reasons for chasing Creel, and they welcomed his experience. Motherfucker. Celine had merely to bow his head, describe his reasons for chasing Creel, and they welcomed his expertise. I know what the problem is. Celine had merely to bow his head and describe his reasons for chasing Creel, and they welcomed his expertise. I don't know. I could fix that another time. Once they reached the killer, of course, most of them would probably die. He did not envy them their bravado. He had learned early on that his was a cautious spirit. His gifts were better suited to stealth and observation than all-out engagement. Up ahead, grenades began to be thrown. Sophris channeled some of his life force into a buffeting shield, sending the grenades cascading harmlessly to the side and behind his compatriots. As the canal reached its ends, drink some coffee. I'm sorry, I know it's cheesy, but I just love these fucking sentences. The way they flow. Sophris is like, I don't know, he's just chill. As the canal reached its end, Creel's goons began to fan out on either side. Sophris held off, half covered in an entryway. He cursed as Creel dashed into an exit behind the wall of men. Once again, Sophris marveled at the sheer numbers of goons Creel had been able to employ. He couldn't fathom how much money had been spent on this operation. Was killing one labor leader really worth such an expenditure? He imagined that Creel must have used his entire fee for the massacre out of sheer perversity. But Creel wasn't known for doing anything without compensation. Sophris tried the door beside him, using his gift to manipulate the lock. As it popped open, he reformed the map in his mind. The chase continued apace. Hell yeah. Chapter 22, Ayana. The scene was a chaotic nightmare. Studying every inch of visible space, Ayana made a series of calculations. Teams of port workers had formed up in protected areas, presumably to face off against whoever was coming through the gate. However, someone was firing on them from behind, near a small freighter powering up for flight. The workers were pinned down, several of them dead or dying. As the citizens behind her realized what was happening, she could feel their fear start to rise. She spoke a word of calm, forestalling the panic. Above ground level and to the right, she could hear additional shooting. Someone had entered the port from a different entrance and was firing at the workers as well, leaving them very little cover. The workers, many of whom had only melee weapons, were sitting ducks. She had a brief glimpse of a soldier, or perhaps policeman, ducking behind some cargo on the other side of the main shooter's ship. He was carrying some kind of rifle and appeared to be resolute and focused. He wasn't attacking the workers. Could he be friendly? Ayana strode into the fray, weaving a shield of force around herself and her allies. She felt two acolytes add their strength to her shield as they walked beside her. Grundle seethed, hefting up a huge piece of metal someone had given him. Whoever was shooting near the ship was about to receive a very nasty greeting. Just then, something began to whir into life. As the mech rose to its full height, Ayana's heart sank. This was something none of them would be able to bring down. The group strode forward, driven by fury and the thirst for vengeance. It was a feeling Ayana could get used to. I love it. Once again, we get a glimpse of Ayana's essential duality between her natural character of like quick to anger, hothead, emotional, righteous, and then her other side, which is her training, which is to be kind and loving and compassionate and believe in people's better angels and never count anyone out for their immortal soul or whatever. If any of you have read the Dresden Files, she's a bit like Michael Carpenter, a paladin. Although if this was D&D, she'd be a paladin. In Shattered Worlds RPG, she'd probably be a paragon or a magic user. Things are a little bit different. It's more of a skills-based game. If anybody wants to play it, let me know and I'll send them a game book. We've got a Discord. You could do RP on there. Holler at your boy. All right. So there's a mech in play. Chapter 23, Creel. The combat mech was a welcome sight. Right on schedule, it surged into life, stepping in front of Maki's position, obscuring the entrance to the freighter and striking fear into the crowd of Lunari vermin. Creel took note of the young black woman and her Vorak companion. The robot would easily dispatch both of them. The killer sent his men down the stairs, firing at will on the barely hidden workers. Blood coated the steel floor of the port, its hot sweetness filling his nostrils. A smile came unbidden to his lips. He exulted at the thought of further destruction. If only he had had more time to watch the fun. Sadly, he had to leave before the big guns arrived. Someone was firing behind him. Apparently, his illusion had been detected. No matter, the job was nearly complete. Floating serenely from a gap in the railing, the music of his childhood came to mind. Twinkling spheres and glass leaves making soft and tender phrases, flowing throughout the village every Sunday. What joy he'd experienced back then. No one could have known how he longed to transgress their pacifistic ways. And now all his devilish designs were being realized. Truly, his life's work had become a reality. He didn't see the net engage until it was too late. Damn. Hell yeah. Fucking Creel. Guy is a menace. How you guys doing? How are you so far? Holler at your boy and let's have a chat. A doobity doo wow. I hope you're liking it so far. Yes. Chapter 24, Joran. Joran feared for his life, but he had no choice. He was well covered against the woman, but if he exposed himself to Creel, there was no telling what the monster might do to him. He cleared his mind of thought in hopes of remaining undetected by the killer's psychic abilities, and drew the powered zone catcher from his bag. The zone catcher was disc-shaped with a dull gray finish. If it opened up within 10 feet or so of a target, it would throw up a net of powered silk fibers that could disable and hold multiple targets, up to a weight limit of 1,000 pounds, give or take. He skimmed the disc across the floor and watched it carom perfectly off the front landing gear of the freighter, activating under the Mistral assassin as he drifted towards his destination. Joran heard Creel's voice scream in his head as the wires constricted around him. cutting off his escape. The device was designed to pulse at different frequencies to suppress thought and disrupt the use of special powers. Joran knew Mistral required concentration to employ their gifts, which made it the perfect tool to catch him. Catch him with? Prepositions? I don't know. I'll put a question mark. I need to smoke weed every time I find a mistake. I don't know. I mean, what's the meter? I always default to the meter if I have a question. So, Joran knew Mistral required concentration to employ their gifts, which made it the perfect tool to catch him with. I think that'll work. Just don't think about it. I got E.B. White up in my head, or whoever that is. Strunk. Strunk you, motherfucker. My English majors will get that one. He couldn't help smile as he heard the scumbag scream. The voice was horrifying, yet it filled Joran with a kind of glee he hadn't felt in years. Gods, he wanted this guy to burn. Just a few more seconds of fighting, and the bastard would be on a ship and headed to Calustria with the rest of the junk this asteroid produced. They don't know what's coming next. Joran and Sophris thinking things are going good. I don't think so. Chapter 25. Grundle. Oh, great. Grundle couldn't believe it. Not only were they dealing with a cybered-up assassin, but now he had to contend with a combat mech slaughtering innocents left and right. He'd have to keep the thing between himself and the daughters, which meant he'd be facing the guns head on. Ayana! The priestess looked up at him, her eyes seeming to say, "What the hell?" He growled, "I'm going in! Guard these people! Do not follow me!" She sighed and moved into position behind a wall of stacked up pallets. A hail of bullets poured out from the mech. Grundle heard the screams. Bodies hit the floor, spraying blood audibly, tendrils of smoke drifting up from their wounds. Bullets bounced off the shield, flattening and sliding off the edge. As they did, Ayana and her acolytes strained, as if holding back a sliding boulder. When the firing ceased, Grundle broke into a run. The assassin was still shooting, as were a group of goons above him and to his right. He winced as he took a bullet in the lower back. He assumed it had been meant for one of the workers who'd been pinned down between machines. Grundle hefted the steel bar above his head like a katana and kept on running. As he rounded the last bit of cover, he saw it. A gigantic humanoid shape with guns instead of hands. A row of lights flashed at random intervals in its face area, and he could hear the ammunition being loaded into the arm cannons. Grundle was moving insanely fast by this point. If he was lucky, he'd make it within striking range before the cannons were ready. He assessed the machine the way he would any device he was repairing at his shop. He ran through every catalog and manual he knew, intuiting the make and model of each component and its weak points. This thing looked practically stock. He recognized the motivator housing by a band of yellow stripes beneath the chest plate. A well-placed smack between the stripes and the plate would disable the thing's movements, effectively removing it from the battle. He reared up and readied his swing. That's when the laser hit his eye. Shit's getting hairy. What's gonna happen? All right, I'm gonna cut it because it's been like 20 minutes and I gotta get some water. But I'm gonna keep going if you like it. Bye.